Edward's hands trembled as he reached for the curtain. 3:15. She should be there by now. The window across the street remained dark. He'd been watching the girl for 7 months, ever since she and her mother moved into the cramped apartment opposite his. Every day at 3:15, without fail, she appeared at that window with her sketch pad and colored pencils. Every day, Edward made his tea, settled into his armchair, and watched her draw. He told himself it was innocent. He told himself he was just an old man with nothing else to do. But the truth clawed at him in the dark hours of the night. Watching her was the only thing that made him feel human anymore. Today, the window stayed empty. Edward set down his teacup. Perhaps she was sick. Children got sick all the time. He'd check again tomorrow. But tomorrow came, and the window remained dark. And the day after that. By the 4th day, Edward stopped pretending to read his newspaper. He simply sat and stared at that empty window, willing the girl to appear. On the 7th day, he saw the sign, "For rent." Something twisted in his chest. Edward pushed himself out of the chair, his knees protesting. He hadn't crossed that street in 3 years, not since he'd moved into this apartment, seeking another anonymous place to disappear. But his legs carried him down the stairs and across the narrow road before his mind could object. The lobby smelled of mildew and old cooking grease. Edward found the landlord, a thick-necked man sorting through mail. "The apartment across from mine," Edward said. "The woman and her daughter, where did they go?" The landlord didn't look up. "Gone. Middle of the night, 6 days ago. Didn't even give notice." "Did they leave a forwarding address?" "Lady, rent was 2 months behind, huh? You think she left an address?" The landlord finally glanced at Edward. "Why do you care?" Edward's mouth went dry. Why did he care? I saw her daughter sometimes, just wanted to make sure they were all right. The landlord's eyes narrowed slightly, but then he shrugged. "Can't help you." He hefted a cardboard box. Taking this to the dumpster, stuff they left behind. Edward saw the corner of a drawing peeking out from the box. "Wait, can I see that?" "Knock yourself out. It's just trash." Edward's hands shook as he pulled out the stack of drawings. Cats with impossible smiles, houses with crooked chimneys, a rainbow that bled off the page, and portraits, dozens of them. The mother, tired lines around her eyes, the daughter, always with a pencil in her hand. "I'll take these," Edward said quietly. The landlord waved him off. "Whatever, old man." Back in his apartment, Edward spread the drawings across his kitchen table. He studied each one, searching for clues he couldn't name. Then he flipped one over. Written in careful adult handwriting, "Emma, age 8, December 2024, love from mommy." Emma. The name punched through 40 years of carefully constructed walls. Edward gripped the edge of the table, his vision swimming. No, it couldn't be. It was a common name, just a coincidence. But his legs were already moving, carrying him to his bedroom closet. He pulled out the shoebox he'd kept hidden for decades, the only remnant of the life he'd abandoned. His hands fumbled with the lid. Inside, a single photograph, yellowed and creased. A young man, barely recognizable as himself, holding an infant wrapped in a pink blanket, and beneath it, a birth certificate. Emma Louise Barrett, born March 15, 1985. 40 years ago, Edward had been 28. He'd had a wife named Sarah and a 3-month-old daughter named Emma. And one morning, he'd walked out for cigarettes and never came back. No note, no explanation. He'd simply gotten in his car and driven until he ran out of road. He told himself he wasn't cut out for fatherhood, that Sarah and Emma would be better off without him. He changed his name, changed cities, built walls so high that nothing could reach him. For 40 years, he'd succeeded in feeling nothing. Until 7 months ago, when he'd seen a little girl drawing in a window. Edward's chest heaved. The woman across the street, could she be his Emma? And the girl, his granddaughter? He looked at the drawing again, his vision blurring. The little girl had drawn him once weeks ago. A stick figure of an old man in a window. She'd held it up and waved. He'd been too terrified to wave back. Now they were gone. Edward didn't sleep that night. By morning, he'd made a decision. He would find them. The landlord had been useless, but Edward was methodical. He went to the public library where a kind young woman helped him navigate the computer. He searched for Emma Barrett. Pages and pages of results flooded the screen. "Can you narrow it down?" the librarian asked. "Birth year? Location?" Born 1985, Edward said, his voice hoarse. Probably somewhere in the state. They searched for 2 hours. Edward's eyes burned, his back ached, but he refused to stop. Then finally, Emma L. Barrett, RN, night shift nurse at Mercy General Hospital, 2 hours north. The photograph was small, professional, but Edward would have recognized those eyes anywhere. Sarah's eyes, his daughter's eyes. That's her. Found who you were looking for. Edward nodded, unable to speak. He'd found her. After 40 years of running, he'd found his daughter. But what now? What right did he have to knock on her door? What words could possibly bridge the canyon of his abandonment? He printed the page with shaking hands and walked home through streets that suddenly felt unfamiliar. Back in his apartment, he sat at the table surrounded by his granddaughter's drawings. Emma had struggled. That much was clear from the landlord's words, from the overdue rent, from the sudden disappearance in the night. She'd raised her daughter alone, working night shifts, moving from place to place. And where had Edward been? Sitting in his comfortable chair, watching from a distance, too cowardly to even wave. If you're wondering what Edward does next, make sure you're subscribed. More stories like this coming your way every week. Edward pulled out a sheet of paper. "Dear Emma," he wrote. Then he crumpled it and threw it away. "Dear Emma, I know I have no right." Crumpled, discarded. "Emma, I'm sorry." The words were ash in his mouth. How did you apologize for erasing yourself from someone's life? For 40 years of birthdays missed, of scraped knees uncomforted, of a lifetime stolen? He tried for 3 hours. The trash can overflowed with false starts. Finally exhausted, Edward put his head in his hands. "Just tell her the truth," he muttered to himself. He picked up the pen one more time. "Emma," he wrote, "you don't know me, but I'm the old man who lived across the street from you for 7 months. I watched your daughter draw in the window every afternoon at 3:15. I never introduced myself. I never waved back when she waved at me. I was too afraid." His hand cramped, but he forced himself to continue. "When you disappeared, I found her drawings. I saw her name, Emma, and I knew I had to find you, because Emma is also the name of my daughter. The daughter I abandoned in 1985 when she was 3 months old. The daughter I've thought about every single day for 40 years, even as I convinced myself I'd done the right thing by leaving." The tears came then, hot and unexpected. Edward's vision blurred, but he kept writing. "I don't know if you're her. I don't know if that little girl is my granddaughter, but I needed you to know that watching her draw brought me more joy than I felt in 4 decades. She reminded me what I threw away, what I was too weak and selfish to fight for. If you are my Emma, if by some impossible chance you are my daughter, then I need you to know I'm sorry. There's no apology big enough for what I did. I stole your father from you. I left your mother alone. I broke something that can never be fixed. But I also need you to know this. I kept your daughter's drawings. I'm having them framed. And if you need anything, money, help, anything at all, I have 40 years of savings that should have been spent on birthday presents and school supplies and college tuition. It's yours, all of it, no strings attached. You don't owe me forgiveness. You don't owe me anything, but I owed you the truth." He signed it with his full name, his real name, the one he'd left behind, Edward James Barrett. Below that, he added his phone number and address. Edward's hands shook as he folded the letter. He packaged it carefully with the framed drawings, all 37 of them. He included the old photograph of himself holding baby Emma. And then, before he could lose his courage, he drove to the post office. "Express delivery," he told the clerk. "It needs to get there as fast as possible." The clerk weighed the package. 2-day delivery to that address, that work? 2 days. 40 years and now he couldn't wait 2 days. Edward nodded and paid in cash. Back home, the apartment felt emptier than ever. The window across the street showed a different family now. A young couple, no children. Edward didn't watch them. He sat at his table and stared at his phone. 2 days passed like 2 years. On the 3rd day, Edward could barely breathe. She would have received it by now. Would she throw it away unopened? Would she read it and feel nothing but rage? Would she call? His phone sat silent. The 4th day came. Still nothing. By the 5th day, Edward accepted the truth. She didn't want to hear from him. Why would she? He'd abandoned her before she could even form memories. He was a ghost, a gap in her life, nothing more. He deserved the silence. That evening, Edward sat by his window as the sun set. He thought about the little girl in her drawings, about Emma working night shifts at a hospital, about Sarah, wherever she was now, raising their daughter alone, about all the moments he'd missed, first steps, first words, first days of school, graduations, heartbreaks, triumphs. He'd thrown it all away because he was afraid, because he was weak. "I'm sorry," he whispered to the empty room. His phone rang. Edward froze. He stared at the phone like it might bite him. It rang again. With trembling hands, he picked it up. "Hello?" His voice cracked. Silence on the other end. "Edward Barrett?" It was a woman's voice. Tired. Careful. "Yes," Edward breathed. Another pause. Then, "This is Emma." Edward's eyes filled with tears. "Emma, I got your package." Her voice was steady, controlled. The drawings, the letter, the photograph. "I'm sorry," Edward said, the words pouring out. "I'm so sorry, Emma. I know it doesn't mean anything. I know it doesn't change what I did, but I need you to know." "Stop." Emma's voice was sharp. "Just stop." Edward fell silent, his heart breaking all over again. "I spent my whole life wondering what I did wrong," Emma said quietly. "Why my father didn't want me. My mom told me it wasn't my fault, but I never believed her. How could it not be my fault?" "It wasn't," Edward said desperately. "Emma, it was never you. I was broken and selfish and I know." Her voice softened slightly. "I know that now. I'm 40 years old. I have my own daughter. And I understand that parents are just people, and people break sometimes." Edward wiped his eyes. "Your daughter, she's beautiful. Her drawings. She wants to meet you." Emma's voice cracked finally. "I told her about the package, about the man in the window. She asked if you were her grandfather. I didn't know what to say." "What did you tell her?" "I told her the truth, that you were, that you made mistakes, that you were trying to make them right." Emma took a shaky breath. "She's 8 years old and she believes people deserve second chances. So against every instinct I have, I'm calling." Edward couldn't speak, couldn't breathe. "I'm not promising anything," Emma continued. "I'm angry. I'm hurt. I don't know if I can forgive you, but maybe we could meet. Maybe you could tell Lily, my daughter, about her drawings. Maybe we could try." "Yes," Edward whispered. "Yes, please." "Saturday," Emma said. "There's a park near the hospital. 2 o'clock. "I'll be there." Emma hesitated. Then, so quietly, Edward almost missed it. "Okay, Dad." The line went dead. Edward sat in the darkness of his apartment, phone clutched to his chest, and wept. Not just with grief for the lost years, but with something he hadn't felt in 40 years. Hope. Saturday, 2 o'clock. He would be there. This time, he wouldn't run. What did you think of Edward's story? And if this story moved you, hit that like button and subscribe for more stories that will make you feel something real. See you in the next one.